This is where the fun begins.
What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be giving you my top 10 best movies of 2021. In other words, my top 10 favorite movies of the year. I kind of view those as hand in hand. Before I get into this, make sure to hit the like button, comment your favorite movies of the year down below, or the best movie of 2021. What do you think it is? I want to know. And make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future videos as we head into the new year. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to have about 5 to 7 honorable mentions that I'm just going to fire off, and then I'm going to get right into my top 10. And if I rated certain movies higher than others, I kind of don't really take that into account. I just am viewing it how I feel about these movies right now. So I'm going to go ahead and list off some of my honorable mentions that were just shy of making the top 10. My honorable mentions are In the Heights, The Last Duel, West Side Story, Nightmare Alley, Cruella, and Ghostbusters Afterlife. So coming in at number 10 for me is going to be No Time to Die, the final Daniel Craig James Bond film. I just recently picked this one up on 4K, and I can confidently say this is a fantastic send-off to Daniel Craig as James Bond. The action scenes just really work for me. They're beautifully shot, but that's not really the main focus of this movie. This is much more of a character study James Bond movie that features really intimate scenes between him and his lover. The movie takes some crazy risks that I never thought the Bond franchise would do, and it ended in a really satisfying way. I'm really happy that they were able to pull it off. Ana de Armas is a scene stealer in the brief time she does have on screen as well, and everything just came together really well to give us a satisfying conclusion to Daniel Craig's James Bond run. Number 9 for me is going to be Licorice Pizza, the latest film from Paul Thomas Anderson. This is a movie that I really enjoy. I know there's kind of some debate going on online regarding the movie's portrayal of the age gap and all of these different aspects of the movie that are kind of controversial, but I enjoyed this one for what it was, mainly because it was able to capture a high school coming of age vibe, much like Dazed and Confused or Superbad, while also tackling some more serious issues, mainly being able to portray young romantic relationships and decisions that people have to make as they enter a new chapter of their life. This was something that really just struck a chord with me. Bradley Cooper is in this movie for about 10 to 15 minutes, and he steals every single second of screen time that he has because the man is hilarious. Alana Haim and Cooper Hoffman both give phenomenal debut performances. I wonder if either of them will get nominated for an Oscar, only time will tell. But what I love about this movie is it's kind of a return to the golden age for Paul Thomas Anderson. He's going back to that Boogie Nights era and that time period, but he's still maintaining some of those deeper themes that we see in movies like Punch Drunk Love. So it all just blended together really nicely to deliver a delightful movie, honestly. Like, I had a really great time with Licorice Pizza. It's on the longer side, but that didn't bother me. I was fully invested in the story from start to finish, and I'm a big fan of coming of age hangout movies, and I feel like this embodies that. Coming in at number 8 for me is going to be A Quiet Place Part 2. I love this movie, and I was skeptical because the first film had such a perfect, ambiguous ending, but they really did a great job here. John Krasinski returns to direct. This man is a master of creating tension without dialogue and through sound editing and sound design, and there are moments where I was just so tense in the theater, especially when the young kid steps on the bear trap at the beginning of the movie. The Quiet Place movies are two that I can see myself viewing back to back for years to come, and I know they're going to make a third one, but I hope they leave it as it is almost. The only minor gripe I have with this movie is the ending is a little more ambiguous and doesn't tie up as many loose ends as the first film does. I still really dug it. Cillian Murphy's character was a really solid addition, and just like that first movie, the tension is non-stop. Like, my muscles were sore when I left the theater. I was scared to make a noise in that theater, and it's one theatrical experience that I will never forget, just like the first Quiet Place, because of how damn silent it really does get. And a fun fact about this movie is when I went to see Black Widow the second time, the theater actually started playing A Quiet Place Part 2 instead of Black Widow, and I was almost like, let's just watch this movie instead of Black Widow. Coming in at number 7 for me is going to be Don't Look Up, the latest film released on Netflix directed by Adam McKay that has nothing but controversy surrounding it. I've seen so many negative takes, so many positive takes, so many down the middle takes on this movie. It's one of the most divisive films that I've probably seen in recent years. And this is coming from someone who doesn't like Vice. I actually don't like that movie at all, but I love Adam McKay's comedy. I really like Don't Look Up. I think that it's a brilliant movie featuring a great performance from Leonardo DiCaprio, who's going to get nominated for an Oscar, rightfully so. Jennifer Lawrence is on point. Meryl Streep kills it. Jonah Hill's hilarious in this movie. I know a lot of people have pinpointed the cringe humor. I don't find it cringe. I actually thought it was pretty funny. In fact, multiple moments actually had me laughing out loud in the theater, especially this one shot of Ron Perlman firing a machine gun into the sky. I love how the movie was highly relevant to our society, especially with the whole pandemic going on, but also just a lot of issues that people are going back and forth on, and in my opinion, The movie really kind of took shots at both political sides, and I love how this movie touches on and even pokes fun at the fact that people in this country and around the world are so strongly proud of their political views, and they let them define who they are. I feel like this movie kind of takes that and just takes jabs at it, because at the end of the day, people are always going to disagree on things, and it shouldn't be the cause of the downfall of humanity, and I think people should be able to find a common ground, and I feel like this movie definitely touches on that. And this rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, but for me, I didn't mind it. It didn't offend me in the slightest. I found it actually relevant because it clearly pokes fun at both sides of the political spectrum, while also having a lot of emotion to it as well, and especially near the end, there's a scene that really hits home. I think this is a very well done movie from Adam McKay, and it kind of won me over to him and his dramedy films, because after Vice, I didn't really want to see another movie this guy did, but this one really just landed with me. Coming in at number 6 for me is going to be Last Night in Soho, a movie directed by Edgar Wright. Now, I kind of want to come clean here and say I was really on the hype train right when this came out. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I said it was my favorite movie of the year, and I've thought about the movie since then, and it's regressed for me a slight bit, but I still think it's really damn good. Edgar Wright's first venture into the horror genre just works for me. Thomasin McKenzie gives a stellar performance, as well as Anya Taylor-Joy, who's just stunning in this movie. I love how the movie portrays the 60s vibes, but it also makes you look at the 60s through a different lens, as there's a lot of corruption going on involving masculinity as well as power dynamics. I think the movie's fairly clever when it comes to the third act and certain reveals that are made. I know some people have said it's fairly predictable. I found this movie to be surprising. It was a mystery from beginning to end, and I was highly intrigued in the story and the characters. I just really felt locked into everything, and the final shot of this movie tied a bow on everything perfectly while leaving a little bit of ambiguity, and it just floored me. I was a big fan of where this movie left off. It's one of the best of 2021 in my opinion, one that I want to rewatch, but I'm kind of worried to rewatch because I don't want it to taint my original view on the movie. However, I do really dig Last Night in Soho. It's just fallen back a little bit on my top 10 list. Coming in at number 5 for me is going to be James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. I saw this movie twice, and damn do I love it. And I think it's more satisfying for me because the Suicide Squad movie from 2016 is abysmal, and it's one of my least favorite movies of all time, and I feel like this fully rights the wrongs of that film. Like, James Gunn went for it. He took crazy risks here, killed off major characters early on and later on in the movie. It's basically a bloodbath for the entire runtime. You can definitely tell James Gunn directed this movie, as it has a bop of a soundtrack, but some really gorgeous shots as well, some that might even nauseate you early on because of how crazy they are. And the movie's just outlandish as hell, but it knows what it is, and it's a damn fun time. It's very different than the comic book movies we're getting a lot nowadays, and it very much feels like a breath of fresh air, especially for DC. I am excited for that Peacemaker show because I think that's going to be a really fun continuation of one of the characters from this movie, and I feel like the Peacemaker character brings up a lot of questions about morality. Harley Quinn's a badass as always, Idris Elba's Bloodsport's a great new addition, and King Shark is a scene stealer. Peacemaker. And coming in at number 4 for me is going to be King Richard, the Warner Brothers film that was released on HBO Max as well. This stars Will Smith as the father of Venus and Serena Williams, the tennis players, and damn does he give a career best performance. I mean, this guy should get nominated for an Oscar and damn near win. It's going to be between him and someone else I'm going to talk about in a second, but this is one of the more uplifting and motivational movies I've seen this year. It made me feel all kinds of ways in the theater, much like when I watched Remember the Titans or Miracle. Like, there were motivational scenes that made me want to get up and run laps around the theater building. I was able to take a lot out of this movie too and apply it to my life, such as having a plan and an agenda for every single day, being willing to put in the work to achieve your goals, and it's just very pertinent to me in my life. But it also shows the dedication that these girls put into their life to become mega superstars in the tennis realm, but it also shows that family kind of takes a back seat sometimes, and also how far are you willing to go to make your dreams come true. Much like in the movie Whiplash, when Miles Teller kind of is going crazy, how far are you willing to go to become a great one? That's kind of what I see here, where Richard Williams is doing his job and setting his family up to be successful. How much are you stripping away from them at the same time? And that's a very interesting dynamic that this movie has. This movie also has some gorgeous tennis sequences that were riveting. Like, I didn't think tennis could be so intense on film, and this movie proved me wrong, because just like in Remember the Titans when you're watching football games or when you're watching hockey and Miracle, the tennis was riveting. And my favorite moment in this movie is near the end of the film when Will Smith's character Richard Williams walks out and sits down on the court to watch his daughter and be there for her when she's struggling. It is so poetic, it's the best callback in the movie, and King Richard is a must-watch motivational film from 2021. Number 3 for me is going to be Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I feel like I've talked about this movie more than any on my channel aside from another Marvel movie this year, but Shang-Chi is just so much damn fun. I can't get enough of it. It's one of the freshest new characters in the MCU, and I can't wait to see his journey for the rest of the MCU, but the movie's father-son dynamic with villain in Wenwu and hero in Shang-Chi is one of the better in the MCU. Like, we rarely get these humanized stories of a family, and seeing a father-son relationship being the core element of the hero and villain element of the film really worked for me, and it felt very unique. I also love the fantasy vibes this film has, especially in the third act. The visual effects were stunning for the most part, and Shang-Chi is just a total blast of a movie that's really rewatchable, one that I could throw on pretty much any day and have a fun time with it. It's one of my favorite MCU movies for a reason, and it's easily one of my favorites of the year. My runner-up for my favorite film of 2021 is Tick, Tick, Boom. Andrew Garfield is the man, and everyone's finally giving him the credit he deserves, and I just love seeing him getting so much love in the world right now. But he gives his best performance arguably here in Tick, Tick, Boom as he plays Jonathan Larson, an artist struggling to make it and really just wanting to give his all to make this play happen, but society doesn't really care about that. Seeing his friends grow up more and getting real jobs and giving up on their dreams while he keeps his head in the dirt and keeps working is really impactful. The soundtrack for this film is my favorite of the year, and it's one that I've been listening to non-stop in my car. It's been all over TikTok as well, and I'm sure you guys have been listening to it too. Like 3090, it might be the song of the year. Tick, Tick, Boom's a movie that really resonates with me because I'm at a point in my life where I am chasing my dreams and I'm trying to do something that I have a lot of passion for, just like Jonathan Larson. And while society and other people will try and tell you what you need to do in life, or tell me what I need to do, and oh, I need to succumb to this way of living, this is the only way to be successful, I'm just going to keep my head in the dirt and keep doing what I believe in and really have a full faith and belief in myself and see what I'm able to do. And I feel like the song Louder Than Words has really been a song that's helped me through some tough times this year, as actions do speak louder than words. Like, I could sit here and tell every single one of you what my plans are and what I want to do, but if I don't act on that, it's not really worth anything. And the lyrics from that song are just really pertinent too. Like, what does it take to wake up a generation? How do you make someone take off and fly? Like, waking up a generation of people who have been almost brainwashed into this one way of living or thinking is really powerful. Like, I feel like this movie could be an awakening for a ton of people to chase their dreams. It's one of those rare movies that really is impactful in a sense that I could rewatch it or listen to the music and it'll really make me rethink certain aspects of my life. A fantastic directorial debut from Lin-Manuel Miranda, who is one of the GOATs. We all know this already though, but this is a powerful film that I will never forget, one that I will rewatch for years to come, and it's one that had a massive impact on my life. But my favorite movie of 2021 should be no surprise. Spider-Man No Way Home, the king of the Spider-Man movies. There's not much else that I can really say about this one. I've made countless videos about it on TikTok or here on YouTube, but Spider-Man No Way Home is the movie of the year, and it's honestly my favorite MCU movie. Breaking news, but I am finally comfortable to say it's my favorite MCU movie. And by the way, spoiler warning for No Way Home. What this movie does so well is we finally get to see Tom Holland's Peter Parker in the MCU go on a journey and become a man. By the end of this film, he's set up to be Spider-Man for years to come and get his own trilogy of films, but he's living alone. He had to make sacrifices, and that's what he failed to do in his first two movies. Like, the writing team had never really put him in situations where he had to experience real loss, and he definitely experiences real loss in this movie. Peter Parker has to make sacrifices to be Spider-Man, and that's the core element of his character. That's what he's all about. This movie captures that to a T. This movie is also filled with nostalgia, but I'm not blinded by the nostalgia because, yes, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire come in this movie, and it's one of the greatest moments in cinema for my life. One of the greatest moments in just movies ever. I absolutely love it. I'll never forget the first time I saw them in this movie. But they actually serve a purpose in Peter Parker's arc, which is what I found to be so powerful and resonant and poetic even, is the fact that Tom Holland's Peter Parker had to find himself in the other Peter Parkers, and that is crucial to his character arc. They were there for him when no one else was. When he lost Aunt May, he found himself in himself, essentially. It has all the action you would want with these past villains coming back, and we get a damn great performance from Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin, who is so menacing. I'll never forget him eating those punches to the face, and he's just eating it up with a smile. That is menacing as hell. It's one of the better MCU villains now, I would say. This movie also portrays MJ and Peter's romance the best we've seen it in the MCU. Like, Peter goes through the ringer, all right? He loses everything by the end of this movie, as the whole world forgets who he is. So now he's alone. And now we're going to see him go on this journey of self-discovery and meeting new people and having to take care of New York, being the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man that we all need and that we all love. I cannot wait for the future of this character in the MCU. I will say I'm concerned this could be peak MCU Spider-Man movie because I don't know if anything's ever going to top it. Only time will tell. But this is my favorite MCU movie, and it is the undisputed king of the Spider-Man films. And by default, it's my favorite movie of 2021. But that's going to do it for my top 10 best movies of 2021. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button. Comment your favorite movies of the year down below. What is your #1 movie? Definitely make sure to check out my other top 10 lists that I have, such as disappointing of the year, surprising movies of the year, as well as my top 10 worst movies of the year. This is my last video of the year, and I just wanted to say Thank you so much to every single one of you. If you watch this video, if you're new here, if you're simply just scrolling by and never even clicked on the video, thank you so much for the support here on the Film Stock channel. It means the world, and I am going to bring my all in the next year. I'll have a channel update at some point early on, talking about my plans moving forward with the channel, but I have never been more excited to be making content than I am right now. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell as we head into the new year, a new chapter of life. It's going to be a fun one, and I hope you guys stick around for the journey because 2022 is going to be one for the books. But thank you guys again for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys next year.